What is up, people? Hope you're doing great. I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video. Obviously it's Monday today, guys, so I'm meant to be previewing the games that we're playing this weekend. But I'll first talk about the Champions League. I just want to go over the Champions League draw that just took place. Obviously the round of 16 draw. But obviously, before I go into the video, guys, please, I would like to ask you, if you haven't done so, please continue to subscribe to the channel, and also please push that thumbs up button to like the videos, and push that notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. Now, guys, I am like basically here. My niece is actually going just now. I was gonna say I apologize for any noises that she might make, because she was right here next to me. She might come back, so midway through the video she might like make a sound or something, and I'm actually using her tablet, so she might come and want it. I want to check the fixtures here, because I know like some of the cracking tires and who City drew, but I just don't want to forget, so that's why I'm going to use the tablet here as a reference for the Champions League draw. But obviously, guys, without wasting any time, if we get right into it, I'll start with the cracking tires. I know I'm a City supporter, but I'll start by talking about the cracking tires. Obviously, Liverpool have been drawn against Real Madrid. The first leg is going to be at Anfield, and the second leg is going to be at the Bernabeu. There's 20 European Cups between these two clubs, because Real Madrid have 14 and Liverpool have 6. So there's a lot of history in this fixture, and actually there's a lot of bad blood between these specific two teams, because in the last 5 seasons, Real Madrid have knocked out Liverpool 2 times, and it's both been in the final. Because in 2018, Liverpool were knocked out of the final by Real Madrid, and in 2022, this year, when they were in the final again together, these guys, Real Madrid knocked out Liverpool again, even though Liverpool played. They played well in that game, just that Courtois was like, he was a man possessed, and Liverpool just couldn't score past him because he was just brilliant on the night. So, I think that there are a lot of scars on the Liverpool players that have been made by the Real Madrid players. I actually remember, just before the final played, Mo Salah was saying, like, basically, on the Tuesday when Liverpool, so obviously Liverpool played Villarreal in the semi-finals. And their second leg was on Tuesday. Real Madrid played City on Wednesday at the Bernabeu. So basically, when Liverpool went through to the final, Mo Salah was asked by the BT Sport panel in terms of who he would like to face the most. And he was saying definitely Real Madrid, because Real Madrid knocked us out of the final in 2018. So I definitely want to face them. And then what happened is that Carvajal, in the press conference that he basically, like that, obviously before the game there's a press conference that takes place, and Carvajal was the player for Real Madrid that was representing Real Madrid in that press conference on the Tuesday before they played against Man City on the Wednesday. And Carvajal said, well, I'm sorry it was the press conference of the final. Yes, it was the press conference of the final, not before Real Madrid actually played. It was the press conference of the final when Carvajal basically said, well, I hope Salah is ready for this, because we're going to knock them out again. So I don't know how many scars he has from us knocking them out back in 2018 in the final, but it's going to happen again. And it happened again. So I think there's going to be a lot of bad blood for sure in this game. I'm pretty sure Salah, again, is going to be pumped, because it's in his head that he wants to knock out Real Madrid in the Champions League. But then Real Madrid are that force in Europe that you can have a better team than them. But because of all the history, because of all the heritage of the football club, that heritage, if you are not as historic as them, which no team is, can overwhelm you, and they can beat you basically despite you playing well against them. Which is what happened to us last season against Real Madrid, where we absolutely battered them, but they still beat us. And Liverpool absolutely battered them in the final, but they still lost to them. So Real Madrid just they know how to win in the Champions League. So, like, they're one of those teams that they don't have to play well to win the Champions League. they're so experienced in the competition that they know how to win. And it's not a problem for, like, they never get phased when they're in the Champions League. They actually embrace that pressure of being in the Champions League. Some teams might be scared when they play in the Champions League, and to a certain extent, Liverpool are like this as well. Whenever Liverpool play at Anfield in the Champions League, it's always it always feels significant because of the whole history and heritage behind the football club. And you can kind of feel the atmosphere at Anfield. Like, I'm going to be honest, the one stadium I never want to play in, especially in the Champions League, is at Anfield. I literally do not want to play against Liverpool. I actually hope Real Madrid knock them out, because I don't want to play at Anfield in the Champions League. Because the whole history of Liverpool, like when you play in that stadium, like the pressure, you can tell when players are playing for a club like Man City that does not have as much history as Liverpool, they can get overwhelmed by that atmosphere and by the crowd at Anfield, basically. And that's why we've struggled so much to play against Liverpool at Anfield, even in the Premier League. We last won at Anfield back in 2003, like when in a normal game. And when I say in a normal game, it's because we did win there back in 2021, but it was in the COVID season with no fans. And Anfield without fans is not like, I mean, any stadium without fans is not a scary place to go to, because it's basically your players against their players, and the better team will win. There's not like no team is gonna have an advantage because there are no fans. Whereas when there's fans in the stadium, the home team, especially if it's fans like Liverpool fans at Anfield, Liverpool have an advantage because of the atmosphere that their fans create. So I think this is a really fascinating tie. I actually said, like 30 minutes before the draw, I was thinking of the draw in terms of how it's gonna work out. Obviously, in the Champions League round of 16, how the draw basically works is that the teams that finish first in the group stages are gonna play against the teams that finish second. But you can't play against a team that was in your group. So, for example, this season, we were in the same group as Dortmund, and Dortmund finished second and we finished first. But we could not play Dortmund because we were in the same group as them. And then you also can't play against teams from your own country. This is only applicable to the round of 16. You can't play against teams in your own country. So we couldn't play against Liverpool because Liverpool are the only English club that finished second, I think, because Spurs and Chelsea finished first of their groups. So basically, Liverpool are they were in pot 2 and we were in pot 1. But because they were in the same country as us, we couldn't play them. So when I was thinking of it, I was thinking Real Madrid finished first, so they're in pot 1 and Liverpool are in pot 2. I was thinking it would really be a cracking tie if Liverpool were drawn against Real Madrid. Not because I want Liverpool to go out, but because of the whole history of the two clubs and how both clubs are so historic in the Champions League and in their respective leagues, obviously, that it's like there's history and heritage in the fixture. And therefore, you know, it's really fascinating. It's going to be a fascinating tie. I can't actually wait for February because it's really going to be a really interesting tie between Real Madrid and Liverpool. Obviously, and I know some people might write off Liverpool for this game because Liverpool haven't started the season off well. But we don't know how Liverpool are going to look next season in February compared to how they look now. Like, you could get two different sides by the time we get to February of next year than the side we've seen so far this season that has lost to Leeds United, Nottingham Forest. Like, Liverpool could make signings in January, which would improve their squad. They could sign some top midfielders to add to their team, even though this is unlikely because they don't usually do that. But if you remember back in 2018, they did sign Virgil van Dijk for 75 million in January. So they've signed top players in January before. And they could do exactly the same thing to improve their squad and to improve their chances, for example, of winning the Champions League. So the team that we see now, in terms of the Liverpool team that we see now, could be very different to the team that we're going to see in February of next year. And obviously, Real Madrid have started the season off well. They top in La Liga. I know some people might make reference to the fact that they lost to Leipzig in the Champions League and they drew against Shakhtar, I think. But I think that's irrelevant when it comes to Real Madrid, because if you compare and contrast last season, for example, last season, Real Madrid lost to Sheriff. Now, some of you might not even know which club Sheriff is. For example, I don't know where it's from. And this is like, I'm not bantering or anything. But last season was the first season Sheriff, like, it's Sheriff something. I forgot the second part of the second part of their name. But it was the first time they were playing in the Champions League, and they were drawn against Real Madrid, and they won against Real Madrid. But Real Madrid still won the Champions League. So I don't think the only thing relevant when it comes to Real Madrid is that they threw to the knockout stages. That's the only thing that's relevant. Like, they can lose against the worst team and still win the competition. They've done that so many times in the Champions League. I remember under Zinedine Zidane, when they won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, there was a season when they finished second of their group. And it was not like a tough group whereby they were up against a European giant, but they still won the Champions League. So it is the nature of how Real Madrid are as a club. The history of and heritage of the football club is so enormous that the players never get phased when they play in the Champions League, and they can have their worst performance of the season in the Champions League and still win. That's how, like, it's almost like they are more than human when it comes to the Champions League. It's like the other teams are humans and Real Madrid are immortal, which they are when you look at their Champions League history. So I think it's really going to be a fascinating tie between them and Liverpool, because Real Madrid still have a great team. Benzema is playing at a very high level. Vinicius Jr. has raised his level. Fede Valverde, I think, has gone under the radar. I think he's really good. He scores goals. He's got energy. He's tenacious. I really like him as a midfielder. You've got the likes of Camavinga, who's also a really nice young player. Like, plays with a lot of energy, box-to-box midfielder, covers the ground very easily. Modric, at the age of 37, is still playing at a very high level. He was phenomenal in that run last year to Real Madrid. Well, last season to Real Madrid, like basically winning that Champions League last season. Like, I remember his assist against Chelsea for Rodrigo when Chelsea were leading the tie at the Bernabeu, and it looked like Real Madrid were going to lose and they were going to get knocked out. And Modric literally came, like, he basically made a pass out of nothing. He got the ball, hit the ball with the outside of his right foot, and it was on a plate for Rodrigo, and Rodrigo finished. And like, so Modric, yes, he's old, but he's still playing at a very, very high level. So I just think, man, it's just so fascinating when you think of this Champions League round of 16. I think we have some cracking ties. So it's really going to be interesting to watch the Liverpool-Real Madrid game, especially with the fact that, actually, Real Madrid also, I think that the last team to win at Anfield was Inter Milan last season. But that game was irrelevant because I think Liverpool won the first leg 3-1. And basically, Inter, I think, won the second leg 2-1. But, like, they didn't win the tie. So pretty much that victory was insignificant. But, like, the last team to knock out Liverpool out of the Champions League by... Oh, actually, it is Atletico Madrid, eh? Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, that was in 2019-20. Yeah, so the last 3 teams to knock out... last 2 teams to knock out Liverpool by beating them at Anfield, it's the 2 Madrid clubs. It's Atletico Madrid in 2019-20, and it's Real Madrid, I think, back in 2014 or 2015. I don't quite remember when it was. But, like, it's what I'm saying, that when you talk about Anfield and how historic the stadium is, that doesn't matter when it comes to Real Madrid, because Real Madrid are the immortals of the Champions League. So they don't care where they're playing, really, because, like, their players have that history and heritage to basically, like, they have that history and heritage that helps them in tough moments in the competition. Even when they start, like, to doubt themselves, they think back to the fact that they're wearing the Real Madrid shirt and they're representing the crest of Real Madrid, the badge of Real Madrid. And that kind of immortalizes them, and it pushes them to that, like, it gives them that extra bit, that edge to perform and to basically to go over the finish line and win, which not many clubs have, basically. So I think it's really going to be a fascinating tie between Real Madrid and Liverpool. And then obviously the other tie, guys, the other cracking tie is Bayern Munich against PSG. Now again, PSG finished second of their group, so the first leg is going to be at home to PSG, and the second leg is going to be at home to Bayern Munich. So this is also another replay of a fixture 2 seasons ago. No, not 2 seasons ago. Yes, 2 seasons ago, when we knocked out PSG in the semi-finals. In the quarterfinals, they played against Bayern Munich, and they knocked out Bayern Munich from the competition. So I know Bayern Munich have way more history than PSG, obviously, because Bayern Munich have won the Champions League 6 times, and PSG have never won the Champions League. But PSG do have something to hang on to with the fact that they did beat. I'm sorry, guys, for looking at this tablet. I'm just looking for an article that is going to show all of these games. Yeah, I think I've got it. So I was basically saying, PSG have something to hang their hat on, because as much as Bayern Munich are more historic than them in the Champions League, they have beaten Bayern Munich literally quite recently, because it was literally 2 seasons ago, which was not a long time ago. It was a year ago to be exact. It was a year ago to be exact, because it was in the season 2020-21, which was 2 seasons ago, but it was a year ago because it was back in 2021 when we played against Chelsea in the Champions League final, and Chelsea won. And it was basically back in March or April when PSG knocked out Bayern Munich from the Champions League. So I think that will give PSG a bit of belief. And also, PSG so far this season, they are a bit more solid than they've been in previous seasons. However, I still think you can get at PSG. I don't think their defense is that great. They also don't have a world-class defensive midfielder. And I think any team that does not have a world-class defensive midfielder, it's always difficult for them to be able to beat the top sides in Europe, because you need that anchor in midfield that is a defensive midfielder that's going to put out all the fires for you. That's going to help you out in terms of stopping counterattacks against you and making sure that they protect the back line. So I worry for PSG in that regard. Not worry for them, because I don't actually care whether they win or don't win. But I still think their team can be got at, because they don't have, first of all, they don't have world-class defenders in their team, and they don't have a world-class defensive midfielder, and their front three players don't work hard. They don't track back. Now, if you come up against a team of top players, but also of honest individuals, so top players that work hard for the team, it's going to be very difficult for you to beat that team if you have 3 players in your team that don't work hard. It's very difficult to carry 3 passengers on one team, which PSG do with Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi. As brilliant as those guys are as footballers, as great as they are as footballers, in terms of the team game and in terms of giving yourself the best chance to win, I think a team that has quality like Bayern Munich, but also works hard as a whole, I think have a good chance of knocking out PSG, simply because if they can outwork them, then they can basically, at the top level, quality is not enough, because you're playing against a team that also has quality. You see, when you're playing against a team that doesn't have quality, you can afford not to work hard and still win. Why? Because you're playing against someone whom you are 10 times better than. So therefore, it doesn't really matter whether that team works hard or not, because you have more quality than them. You can play at 50% of your capacity and still beat them, simply because you have more quality than them. But when you're up against a team that has the same, if not more, quality than you, and you get that team working harder than you, it makes it extremely difficult for you to beat that team, simply because now that team is matching you for quality and they're outworking you, and therefore their quality is going to get more of an opportunity to shine than the quality that you have, because your players don't work hard. And that's the predicament that PSG are in that their three front players, like, they're passengers basically. They don't track back. The midfielders have to do their dirty work. Now, you can have one player in a team that does that, but you can't have three. You can have three against a weaker team than you, but you can't have three passengers against a team that has less, if not more quality. That has more, if not the same quality as you. And I think that's the only thing that PSG should worry about, in that when they come up against the top teams, they have to work hard and they have to put a shift in if they want to give themselves a chance to win. And obviously, Bayern Munich, there was a lot of talk at the beginning of the season with them selling Lewandowski, and the fact that they were so heavily reliant on Lewandowski for goals. And now the fact that they were selling him, there was a worry that they were going to struggle for goals, because obviously, if you have a guy that has scored over 40 goals in the past 10 seasons consecutively, I think, if you have a guy like that and you lose him, then obviously it's going to be difficult to replace him. But what Bayern Munich have done is that they have not tried to replace him. They've actually tried to play a different system. And that's why it's working for them offensively. So instead of saying, okay, guys, we need to replace Lewandowski, they've basically said, okay, guys, we don't have Lewandowski anymore. Now it's going to be very difficult for us to replace Lewandowski because of the top player that he is. But if we find a different way to play, a different way to create chances, a different way to score goals, then we can potentially be a better team than we were when we had Lewandowski. And one could argue that they are a better team offensively than when they had Lewandowski, because when they had Lewandowski, defenses knew what to expect from them because they were one-dimensional. They were playing with a striker, and the striker was going to be the one who always scored goals. But now, because they're not playing with a recognized striker, the threats are coming from different places. You have Mane, you have Sane, you have Gnabry, you have Musiala, you have Maxim Choupo-Moting. So you have Thomas Muller. So you have different players that can hurt you, rather than having a Lewandowski whom Bayern Munich heavily relied upon. And you knew if you were facing Bayern Munich, you had to do a good opportunity of limiting the chances that Lewandowski was going to get, because you knew that if you gave him too many chances, he was going to punish you. But now, because they don't have Lewandowski, because they've basically said, okay, you know what? We don't have Lewandowski anymore, so let's try and play slightly differently to the way we played when we had him. They now have more threats across the front line and across the midfield, and therefore that makes them a little bit more unpredictable than they were previously. But the only worry for them is that they have conceded a few amount of goals so far this season. So I think that's something that PSG are going to hang their hat on, that, okay, guys, these guys, yes, they're good offensively, but they have conceded a few goals when it comes to them defending. So with the quality that we have in our front players, we can definitely hurt them. And one could argue that this PSG team now is better than the one that knocked out Real Madrid 2 seasons ago, because they have a different coach that demands the absolutely 100% from the players. Yes, the front players don't work as hard as the other guys, but he's trying to hold all the players in the team accountable. The new coach for PSG, he's basically ruling with an iron fist. If you're not listening to what he's saying you should do, then he's going to basically say, okay, well, you're out the side. So, like, the team that PSG have right now is slightly different to the one they've had in previous seasons, and you could argue slightly better. But I still think any team can hurt PSG if they outwork them. And it's not too difficult outworking PSG, because they have three players that won't work hard. So if you're going to have that in any situation, if you're going to have three players that will sort of work hard but are not going to work hard at the maximum, I think you can be hurt by any opposition team if that opposition team is willing to outwork you, which Bayern Munich are. Because Bayern Munich are full of tenacious players like the likes of Sadio Mane, who plays with great energy, always hounds players, he presses from the front. So I think this one is just like the Real Madrid one, in that both teams could win, and obviously one team is going to get knocked out. So like it's going to be fascinating how it's going to pan out, because obviously PSG still want to win their first Champions League title, and Bayern Munich obviously want to win the Champions League every year because they have that history and heritage of winning the Champions League because they've won it 6 times. So it's kind of there's that like there are those scenarios whereby you like, okay, will PSG be able to beat them like how they did two seasons ago, or will Bayern Munich be able to overcome them? So it's like, but again, same thing I said with regards to Liverpool. Both teams, Bayern Munich and PSG, could be very different in February than they are right now, because we also have a World Cup in between. Some players might get injured. Some players might come back to full fitness for some teams. So yeah, you can't really predict what's going to happen right now, because I mean, you don't know, because it's going to happen in 4 months time, because we still like we have December, January, 2 months time, not 4. I don't know where I got 4. I know my head is there. Because we just have December and January, and then we're gonna get to February. So it's gonna be 2 months time, and a lot can happen in 2 months. So we can't predict right now, but obviously we're just previewing these cracking ties. And then if I move on to the other games, guys, I know Man City are playing Leipzig, RB Leipzig. So this is a good draw for us, because I mean, obviously we have more quality than Leipzig. I think Leipzig have quality in their side. We did play Leipzig last season in the group stages. They were in our group last season, and they are a decent outfit. I mean, like they've got the likes of Christopher Nkunku, who's really been good since he's gone there. And they have Timo Werner has gone back to Leipzig from Chelsea. So I think in general they have good players. But I mean, it's a good draw for us. They're not gonna like keep us from scoring, so they might score 1 or 2 goals, but we will be able to outscore them in 2 legs. And remember, guys, there are no away goals in European competitions anymore. So it's pretty simple in terms of what you have to do to win. You have to outscore your opponent. So I just don't think. I think Leipzig are a good team. They have decent quality. Obviously, they don't have world class players across all areas of the pitch, but they are a good side that can cause you problems. But I do think that we should cope against them fairly easily. I don't think we're gonna have a problem coping against them. So I mean, I don't think there's much that I can dwell on there, because I mean, yeah, like it's a good tie. It's a Champions League tie. Obviously, I'm gonna watch it because I support City, but realistically, I don't think RB Leipzig are gonna have enough quality to beat us, and therefore, I think we're gonna comfortably beat them. They might score, but I just don't think it's going to be a problem for us against them. I think they will put up a fight. I'm not just saying we're going to steamroll them, but I think eventually the quality will prevail and we will be able to beat them. Unless, of course, we get key injuries to certain players. So, like, for example, if Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, and Foden, Bernardo Silva all get injured at the same time, then it's a different story, because now we don't have our best players. But as long as we have our best players, I just don't see how RB Leipzig would cause us problems to the point that they are able to beat us. I just don't see that happening. So I don't think there's much more I can say about that particular tie. And then obviously the other one, guys, is AC Milan v Chelsea. Chelsea are going to be playing AC Milan. Obviously AC Milan are, like, they were once a force in the Champions League. Actually, the only club that has more Champions League trophies than AC Milan is Real Madrid. Behind Real Madrid, I know some people might not know this, because there's been a few seasons when AC Milan have not been in the Champions League. But the only club that has more European Cups than AC Milan is Real Madrid, because AC Milan have 7 European Cups, and it's only Real Madrid that has more with 14. So obviously AC Milan are a side that has a rich history and heritage. But obviously they are not the AC Milan that won the 7 European Cups. They're not that good. They were battered by Chelsea when they played against Chelsea. And Chelsea have not been that great so far this season. No, actually, Chelsea are not playing AC Milan. They can't play AC Milan. Tottenham are playing AC Milan, not Chelsea. Chelsea are playing Dortmund. Yes. It just went to my head right now that Chelsea can't possibly play AC Milan because they were in the same group as them. So Tottenham are playing AC Milan, yes. Obviously, as I was saying, that like AC Milan were battered by Chelsea, who've not been that great so far this season, if we're being perfectly honest, because obviously they've had a change of manager. So Graham Potter has had to try and stamp his style onto the team, which obviously takes time. And the World Cup is not going to do them any good because most of their players are going to go to the World Cup. So it's not like Graham Potter is going to have a chance during this World Cup break to basically drill his players and drill them with his tactics, because most of these players are going to be going on international duty with their countries to represent them in the World Cup. So the fact that AC Milan lost to Chelsea kind of tells you that they're not that great, even though they are a good side, because they have some players that can hurt anyone on their day. The likes of Rafael Leao, Olivier Giroud, who else do they have in their team? I just know Leao and Giroud, who are like, obviously Giroud used to play for Arsenal and for Chelsea, but basically they are, I mean, I think Leao is a great young player. He's got great trickery, good pace, can beat players, can take players on one-on-one and create something out of nothing. So he's one of those mavericks, he's one of those trickery players that any defender gets terrified when those players are running at them, because like they're running at you with pace and power and skill. So it's a lot more difficult than, like, it's really difficult to cope against players who are like that, because it's just difficult for you to kind of commit to something in terms of, okay, should I tackle him now? What should I do now? Because they're just so quick and they're so dynamic. They've got a bag of tricks that they can try on you and beat you. They can drop the shoulder on you. So AC Milan do have some players with enough quality to hurt anyone on their day. And Tottenham obviously haven't played that well so far this season. And even in their Champions League group, they scraped that group into, yes, they ended up finishing first, but that does not give you the full story, because Tottenham against, for example, Marseille, home and away, they were shocking, especially in the first half. They lost to Sporting Lisbon away. I think they drew against them on the other game, which was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So they haven't been that great in the Champions League and in the Premier League so far this season. They lost against Arsenal in the Premier League. They lost against Man United. They lost against Newcastle. They lost against Liverpool yesterday, obviously. So they haven't been that great so far this season. And AC Milan, if they continue to play this way, and if after the World Cup break they're still playing this way, they should have confidence that they can cause Spurs problems. But also, I think Spurs can cause anyone problems on their day. Obviously, at this moment in time, they're missing Son and they're missing Kulusevski, even though Kulusevski came back from injury against Liverpool. But obviously, he was a bit rusty because he's coming off a lengthy injury layoff. So it's not going to be an easy tie for both sides, I think. But I think, especially if AC Milan try to take the game to Spurs and they try to initiate the press, they try to press them high, they try to attack them, I think Spurs will find a lot of joy on the counter-attack, because Spurs on the counter-attack are explosive. And because of the game intelligence of Harry Kane is able to pick passes for Son and for Kulusevski for them to run in behind. And whenever he drops deep, he drags the centre backs with him, and that in turn leaves spaces for the other attacking players for Tottenham. So I think Tottenham can hurt AC Milan because AC Milan are not that great defensively, and they're not that great as an outfit, as a side. But I also think equally AC Milan could hurt Spurs because what we've seen from Spurs so far this season has been nowhere near good enough. They haven't been that great so far this season. And as a result of that, I think they could get knocked out by AC Milan, for example. Even though I would back Spurs more than I would back AC Milan. But I wouldn't be surprised if AC Milan were able to beat Spurs and knock them out because AC Milan do have the quality in their side that can hurt anyone in world football. So yeah, guys, those are my thoughts about the Tottenham game. And then the other game is obviously the Chelsea versus Dortmund game. Let me just check all the other ones here. Okay. Oh man. Okay, let me just check here, guys. Let me just check here. I'm just checking the draw, guys. This thing does not want me to log onto the thingy, to log onto the website of UEFA. So as a result, I don't really have, like, I can't access their thingy. Oh, okay. Here, let me just go on Twitter. I'll go on Twitter because UEFA just posted on their Twitter page in terms of the thingy, the teams that have been drawn against one another. So I'm just still checking here, guys. But I know Chelsea played Dortmund, so I'll just go with that game as I'm waiting for this thing to load. Thing is, this is really an old tablet, guys. This is my sister's tablet, but like my niece uses it from time to time to watch cartoons. So it's like really old and it's really difficult to get thingy. Even though like I don't struggle with the internet here at home, but because it's so old, it can be slow at times, and it's very difficult to kind of use it from time to time. But Chelsea, obviously, guys, are gonna play Borussia Dortmund. Now, Borussia Dortmund so far this season, obviously they've lost Haaland, so they're not that great as an outfit in terms of, like, you know, whenever you watch Dortmund with Haaland, they were so explosive, and you could pin them closer to their own box. But because of Haaland's rapid pace, they could counter-attack you just like that, and 1 minute they would be defending, and the other minute they would have scored a goal. Because of how explosive they were with Erling Haaland in the team, because of how explosive he is. So now they've lost him, and they signed Sebastian Haller to try and replace him. But then Sebastian Haller was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and now he basically went for chemotherapy and he wasn't able to play. But I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play this season. Oh, actually, I've got all of them now. Yeah, I've got all of them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So I've just... Yeah, the other tie is the Benfica Porto one, I think. No, not Porto. It's Benfica with someone else, though. But I've got all the ties now, guys. But I was saying... I was talking about Dortmund. What was I saying about Dortmund? I was talking about Haaland and how explosive they were with Haaland. Oh, I was talking about Sebastian Haller. So after Sebastian Haller was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and it was basically confirmed that he was not going to be able to play. And there's no timeline that has been put out in terms of when he's going to come back. They then brought in Anthony Modeste, who, I mean, he's not that great of a striker. They just signed him as a backup option in the meantime, as they don't have Ale at this moment in time. So now they have to rely on Anthony Modeste. They have to rely on young players to bail them out. They have to rely on Jude Bellingham being the man of the match in every game in order for them to win or even draw. So I think this Dortmund team is not the greatest it's ever been, especially when you consider the fact that they had Haaland last year and how good they were last year, even though they got knocked out of the Champions League last year in the group stages. But that's because Haaland was injured for those last 2 or 3 games, and he missed them, and Dortmund could not win those games. So I think for Dortmund, like they would have done very well if they were able to knock out Chelsea, and I just don't see that happening, because I think by the time we get to February, I think Graham Potter would have had enough time with these players to have drilled them and to have basically stamped his authority in the team and stamped his style of play in the team. So I just think it's a tough ask for Dortmund to win against Chelsea over a two-legged tie. I just don't think they will be capable of doing that. I just think Chelsea have more quality than them, and as a result of that, I just don't see. And Chelsea are not a team that is just going to turn up and not work hard. They're a team that like full of honest players. Just that at this moment in time, they just can't. They're just not playing well. Obviously they're under a new coach, so it's a lot more difficult to kind of like for the players to get in sync, because they're still getting used to the way the coach is playing, to the way the coach wants them to play. Sometimes they play a back three, sometimes they play a back four. Even Graham Potter is not yet sure in terms of which team is his best side. So I think as a result of that, I think it would be I think it's going to be a close tie, but I think by the time we get to February, I think Chelsea they will be playing a lot better than they are right now, and as a result of that, I just don't see how Dortmund can cause them problems, and Dortmund are probably going to sit back in the game and try to counter-attack as they did against us when we played against them in the group stages. But I just don't know whether that's going to work for 180 minutes and whether they're going to be able to keep Chelsea out for 180 minutes. I just don't see that happening. And I just don't see them being able to hold those concentration levels for 180 minutes and just rely on counter-attacking Chelsea. So I just don't see how Dortmund are going to be able to win that tie. And as a result, I would back Chelsea to be the favourites there, and I would back them as the winners of that tie. And then, guys, I think that brings us to the end of the video, because I've spoken about Real Madrid and Liverpool, as well as Bayern Munich and PSG, as well as City and Copenhagen and Benfica. And, well, I haven't talked about Benfica. Benfica are playing Club Brugge, and then Napoli are playing Frankfurt. Napoli have actually been pretty good so far this season, but obviously I don't really follow Napoli, so I don't. Even though I do know that they've been good so far this season, because I've heard about them. They are currently top of Serie A, and they did win the group that had Liverpool in it. So they've been really impressive so far this season, and they absolutely battered Liverpool when they played against them in Naples at the Estadio Diego Armando Maradona Stadium. Obviously, the Napoli Stadium is named after Maradona in his memory, because he passed away last year. But I just think, obviously I've gone through most of the cracking ties in terms of Real Madrid versus Liverpool, Bayern Munich versus PSG. I've spoken about Chelsea versus Dortmund. I've talked about Tottenham versus AC Milan. All the other ones really, I've just touched briefly on City because I support City. So I just wanted to talk about them just a bit. I just think they will be able to I think I think I can't call who's gonna go through in the Real Madrid Liverpool tie, even though I'm leaning towards Real Madrid, but I just can't call it. Or in the Bayern Munich versus PSG tie. But I think in all the other ones, I think Chelsea, Tottenham, City, I think they're all gonna go through. Obviously, I'll be proven wrong or right in March, because the second leg of the round of 16 is in early March, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the Champions League when it comes back but like when it comes back in February. So guys, I'll without wasting any time, I'll bring the video to an end there. If you haven't done so, guys, please subscribe to the channel, and please push that notification bell so that you can get notified when I post a new video. Please also push the thumbs up button to like the video. That really helps as well with the YouTube algorithm. And I appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Have a great day, and yeah, man, have a productive week. And yeah, man, I hope you guys stay safe. And yeah, man. Oh, I've just seen something, guys. FSG, Liverpool, ownership have put the club up for sale. I've just seen an update. I have an app called The Athletic. Obviously, The Athletic is a news channel. They have some reliable journalists. They're like David Ornstein. I've just seen an update in my phone that Liverpool have been put up for sale. So I would actually love it if Liverpool got billionaire owners and they would spend more money, because it would just add to the competition in the Premier League. Because Liverpool, like Man United can spend more money than Liverpool, City can spend more money than Liverpool, Chelsea can spend more money than Liverpool. So it would be great if they would be added to that powerhouse of being able to spend money, and they would be up there as well. Obviously, they've competed against City in previous seasons, and they have gone close in terms of winning the Premier League from City, but their owners have put the club up for sale. I don't know why they have done that. It could be because I have heard some rumblings in the Liverpool fan base that they have been like criticizing the owners because they feel like the owners haven't backed Jurgen Klopp enough in the transfer market, which I believe they haven't, because I think Liverpool, they are too focused on wanting to be profitable. And as a result of doing that, this past summer, they sold Mane and they bought in Darwin Núñez, but they didn't bring in midfielders to try and bolster the squad in the midfield. And right now, they've already lost more games than they did in the whole of last season. And they've already dropped more points this season than they did in the whole of last season. And we've only played 14 games. So that's obviously not good enough based on the standards that they've set. So, and I think if the owners had backed Klopp more and they've brought in more players in the summer, then they would be a lot closer to Man City and Arsenal in terms of being closer to the top of the league. So yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are about that. But anyways, guys, I'll end the video there. Have a great week. Have a productive week, and enjoy the rest of your day. And also, please continue to subscribe to the channel, guys. I really appreciate that. And please push the thumbs up button to like the videos. And please push that notification bell so that you can get notified when I post a new video. And yeah, man, guys, peace out. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.